When a 12-year-old girl finds herself close to death, her family fights desperately to make her last wish come true. The journey leads them to none other than Keanu Reeves, and the moment he meets her in her hospital room is nothing short of extraordinary. You'll be moved to tears when you discover the reason behind her wish. But before we get into that story, please subscribe to our channel CreepyWorld and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our daily uploads. Let's start. Kim Carter was just 12 years old when her world turned upside down. It began with fatigue and an unexplained pain in her bones. At first, her parents, Annabelle and Mark, assumed it was just growing pains or perhaps exhaustion from her busy school and sports schedule. But as the symptoms persisted, they knew something was wrong. A series of medical tests confirmed their worst fear. Kim was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of leukemia. The news shattered her parents, but Kim faced the diagnosis with incredible bravery. She refused to let it dim her spirit, telling her mother as they returned home from the hospital, "We'll fight this, and I'll get better." And fight she did. Months of exhausting chemotherapy and hospital stays followed. Her once boundless energy began to fade, but even as her body weakened, Kim's determination never wavered. She clung to her love of life and refused to let go of her dreams. During her darkest moments, Kim found strength in an unlikely place, Keanu Reeves. She had always been a fan of his movies, but after her diagnosis, she developed a deep connection to the actor. It wasn't just his on-screen presence that captivated her, it was his quiet resilience and kindness in interviews that resonated with her. "He's been through so much, but he's still kind to everyone," she would tell her family as they watched his movies during her long hospital stays. For Kim, Keanu wasn't just a celebrity, he was a symbol of perseverance. She admired how he had faced his own personal tragedies, including the loss of loved ones, yet never lost his humility or compassion. His interviews, where he spoke about grief and life with quiet wisdom, touched her deeply. Kim saw herself in him. Both were fighters, pushing through the pain and refusing to give up. As Kim's condition worsened, it became impossible for her to continue with normal activities. School and playing outside with friends became distant memories. Most of her days were spent in a hospital room, surrounded by machines and medications. Despite the despair, Kim found comfort in Keanu's films and his real-life struggles. "So if he can keep going, so can I," she often told herself. But as the months passed, her treatments became less effective. Doctors informed her family that the leukemia had spread, and her chances of recovery were slim. It was devastating news, but Kim faced it with the same bravery she had shown throughout her journey. Instead of feeling sorry for herself, she focused on comforting her parents, reminding them of the happy times they had shared. Kim had one simple request. She wanted to meet Keanu Reeves, the man who had been a beacon of strength for her through her hardest times. Annabelle knew how much this meant to her daughter. Even on her worst days, Kim's face lit up when she talked about Keanu. Determined to make her daughter's last wish come true, Annabelle began reaching out to anyone who might be able to help, sharing Kim's story on social media and hoping the message would somehow reach Keanu. Keanu, known for keeping a low profile, was going about his day when something caught his eye, an email from his publicist with the subject line, "You should see this." Attached was a link to a social media post that had gone viral. The post detailed Kim's battle with terminal leukemia and how Keanu's movies had been a source of comfort for her. As he read, he was deeply moved. This wasn't just another story of illness, it was about an extraordinary girl who had drawn strength from his work in ways he could never have imagined. Without hesitation, Keanu reached out to his team and asked them to get in touch with Kim's family. He didn't care about the logistics or the press, he simply wanted to meet this brave girl. For Keanu, this was not about promoting a film or seeking attention, it was a personal matter. The news that Keanu Reeves had agreed to meet Kim soon reached her family. Annabelle was in disbelief when she received the call. "Are you serious? Keanu really wants to come here?" she asked the woman on the other end of the line. The woman assured her that it was true. Keanu had been deeply touched by Kim's story and wanted nothing more than to meet her in person. When Annabelle shared the news with Kim, the young girl's face lit up in a way that it hadn't for months. Even though her body was weak, her excitement was unmistakable. "Keanu Reeves is coming to see me," she whispered, hardly able to believe it. In that moment, her pain seemed to fade, replaced by the thrill of meeting someone she had admired for so long. The day of the visit finally arrived. Kim lay in her hospital bed, her small frame covered by a soft blanket, but her eyes were alive with anticipation. She had hardly slept the night before, not because of discomfort but because she knew today was the day she would meet her hero. Down the hallway, Keanu Reeves walked with a nurse and a hospital staff member. He had insisted on keeping the visit private. This wasn't about publicity or promoting a movie, it was about fulfilling the wish of a young girl who had found strength in his life and work. As he approached Kim's room, Keanu's heart raced slightly. He had met many fans over the years, but this felt different. This wasn't about celebrity or fanfare, it was about connection. He had read about Kim's bravery and her unbreakable spirit in the face of an unimaginable battle. She wasn't just another fan, she was someone who had lived a life far beyond her years, and he felt honored to meet her. The nurse knocked softly on the door before opening it and stepping aside to let Keanu in. Annabelle looked up, and for a moment everything felt surreal. The one and only Keanu Reeves, whom she had only ever seen on screen or in interviews, was standing right there in front of them, humble, calm, just as Kim had always described him. "Hi, Kim," Keanu said softly as he approached her bedside. "It's so nice to meet you." Kim's eyes filled with tears of joy as she gazed up at him. She had imagined this moment so many times, but now that it was happening, it felt even more special than she could have dreamed. "You came," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Keanu knelt beside her bed, gently taking her hand in his. "Of course I did," he said with a soft smile, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "How are you feeling today?" Kim smiled through her tears. "I'm okay," she said, though her frail body told a different story. Her face was pale, and her breathing was shallow, but in that moment, she felt alive in a way she hadn't in months. "I've watched your movies so many times," she added. "You've helped me through some really hard days." Keanu's eyes glistened with emotion as he listened. "I'm really honored to hear that," he replied quietly. "I've heard a lot about you too. You're a fighter, Kim. You've been through so much, and you've stayed so strong." They talked for a while, with Kim sharing stories about her love for animals and her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Keanu listened intently, captivated by the light in her eyes as she spoke. Despite the toll her illness had taken on her body, her spirit was vibrant, and it moved him deeply. At one point, Annabelle quietly stepped outside the room to give them some privacy. It wasn't easy for her to leave, but she knew how much this moment meant to her daughter. From the hallway, she watched as Keanu continued talking with Kim. Even from a distance, the kindness in his voice was unmistakable. Back in the room, Keanu asked Kim about her favorite movie of his. "The Matrix," she said without hesitation. "I love how Neo never gives up, even when it seems like everything is against him." Keanu nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "You know," he said gently, "the thing about Neo is that he doesn't just fight for himself. He fights for the people he loves. He finds his strength in that, and I can see that in you, Kim. You're strong because you love your family, and they love you." Kim looked down for a moment, her eyes brimming with tears again. "I just didn't want to leave them too soon," she whispered, her voice trembling. Keanu reached out and gently touched her arm. "You've given them more than you know," he said softly. "Your strength, your courage, that's something they'll carry with them forever, and they'll always have you in their hearts." The room fell into a peaceful silence as Kim absorbed his words. There was something about Keanu's presence, his calm and compassionate nature, that made her feel at peace. In this moment she felt safe, despite the fear and uncertainty she had faced for so long. The only sounds in the room were the soft beeping of the machines monitoring Kim's vital signs. Annabelle stood quietly in the hallway, holding back tears. This visit from Keanu Reeves would likely be one of the last joyful moments her daughter would experience, and she was overwhelmed with gratitude for the kindness the actor has shown. Circes stood discreetly in the background, not wanting to disturb the tender atmosphere. Even they were moved by what they were witnessing. Keanu knelt beside Kim's bed as their conversation naturally came to an end. There was only one thing left to do. Slowly he leaned forward, and Kim lifted her small, frail arms to wrap them around him as best she could. In that single embrace, an overwhelming exchange of emotion passed between them. Keanu held her close, careful not to hurt her, but ensuring she felt the warmth and strength in his touch. Keanu held Kim in a tender embrace, her frail arms clinging to him as though in that moment, all her pain and fear melted away. For the first time in days, Kim felt a sense of peace. It wasn't just a hug from a famous actor, it was an embrace from someone she had admired, someone who had unknowingly been her source of strength during the hardest times of her young life. Annabelle, standing in the hallway, wiped away her tears. Her heart was heavy with the knowledge that time was running out, but she was also filled with gratitude. This moment, Keanu Reeves sitting at her daughter's bedside, offering the compassion and kindness Kim had longed for, was a gift beyond anything she could have ever hoped for. As Keanu slowly pulled back, he looked deeply into Kim's eyes, and there was a silent understanding between them. No words were needed. Everyone in the room could feel it. This was more than just a meeting between a fan and a celebrity. So was a connection that transcended the physical world. Keanu whispered something to Kim, too soft for anyone else to hear, but it brought a small, serene smile to her lips. Kim's body may have been weakened by her illness, but in that moment, her spirit was stronger than ever. She had fought so bravely, and now, with her final wish fulfilled, she felt at peace. Keanu stayed by Kim's side for a little while longer, talking softly and listening to her stories. They laughed together, shared quiet moments, and for that brief time, the world outside seemed to disappear. Kim's mother, watching from the doorway, felt as though her daughter had been given a final gift, something precious and irreplaceable. Before leaving, Keanu gave Kim one last gentle hug and whispered again, "You're not alone. You'll always be with them, and they'll always carry you in their hearts." With that, he stood, gave a soft smile to Annabelle, and quietly left the room, leaving behind a moment that would stay with Kim's family forever. In the days that followed, Kim's health continued to decline, but the memory of Keanu's visit remained a source of comfort. She passed away peacefully, surrounded by her family, with the knowledge that she had met the person who had given her the strength to keep fighting. Keanu Reeves, known for his quiet reflection, didn't speak publicly about the visit, but close friends noticed a change in him. He had met many fans over the years, but something about Kim's journey touched him deeply. He later confided in those closest to him how much the brave young girl had moved him, how her courage and strength had inspired him in ways he hadn't expected. For Kim's family, the memory of that day would forever be cherished. In their darkest moments, the kindness and empathy of Keanu Reeves had brought light. So he hadn't just made a wish come true, he had offered them something far more profound: peace, compassion, and the reassurance that Kim's spirit would always live on. And in that, Kim Carter's legacy, much like Keanu's own strength, would endure.